Hi everybody, I hope you're having a good day. I've been having a pretty good day in my little corner of the world. I hope it's been a good day in your little corner of the world. I'm just reintegrating back into society after a few days away in the great outdoors. I was camping and now I'm back, and it's nice to come back to my creature comforts and coming back to my space and being able to reflect on what I was able to learn when I was outside of my comfort zone and just out in the raw, natural landscape with nothing to do but be, right? Anyway, I've been thinking about a concept that I need to reflect on more deeply, and I'm probably going to make a video in a few months, more like several months, about this concept, the concept of freedom. And I need to reflect more on it, understand this concept, and really grok what freedom actually means. And I feel like I'm not there. So this is just an introductory video on what I understand about freedom so far, and what I consider to be freedom, right? I guess this is just an introductory video on a video that I will make in several months, because I still have to think about this concept and really reflect and introspect and, just try and understand it on a deeper level, which I feel like I'm not there yet. But anyway, what does freedom mean? So freedom in the physical sense, in this physical reality as a human being in this society, freedom means that you have bodily autonomy, right? You have the right to your own body, the right to your own decisions. You are not owned by anybody. You have the choice to do what you like with this physical vessel, right? Nobody has a contract on you, right? Or no one has like some kind of ownership, or nobody can call dibs on you, kind of thing. You just have that freedom to be, right? So that's what freedom means in the most basic definition of the word, right? In this physical reality, the freedom to do what you like with your body without feeling like you are owned. You are not owned by anyone. You don't feel like you're owned by anyone. And this can go for many other aspects in our life, like work. For example, a lot of people feel like they are prisoners and slaves to their jobs, right? Because it's not a choice that they're making. They're not doing something that they necessarily love. They're doing something because of the money, or because they need to work, or because they need the status, or whatever it is. So to a certain extent, that is not freedom. You feel forced to do something that you don't want to do. So and it can also be connected to toxic relationships, right? You feel, for some reason, binded by any kind of relationship, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship or a familial relationship, where you feel like you're tied to that relationship and you can't escape for X, Y, and Z reasons. So you don't feel free, you feel stuck. And that is the opposite of freedom, in my opinion. The feeling of being stuck without being able to move and be free and flow however you would like to flow. So that's the most basic definition of freedom. But when I really think about the term freedom, although there are many situations, events, people in our lives that cause us to feel stuck, another aspect that can cause us to feel stuck, that can further perpetuate our feeling of repression, is our mind. Our minds can also further perpetuate these feelings of being stuck in one place, or they can create problems. Like maybe there's nothing in your life that is keeping you tied, or nothing in your life that you feel is not of your choice, but your mind creates scenarios and creates events in your life that can make you feel stuck, even if you're not really, in reality, actually stuck, right? But it goes both ways. You can either be stuck in this physical reality and your mind worsens the situation by the thoughts that you have, or you may not have any problems in your life that are keeping you tied to a situation or to a person or to an event, but your mind creates those scenarios, right? So our minds can become our slave owners, right? They can become, if we leave our mind unchecked, it can become something that owns us rather than something that we own, right? It can become something that turns into, like I was talking about a few days ago, turns into a weapon. And I want to make this clear, the mind is not bad, right? I have nothing against the mind. This is what makes the human experience so vibrant and so colorful. The mind makes it so colorful and so vibrant, and its input in our lives also gives it it amplifies the situation, but if left unchecked, it can also make a situation detrimental, right? So our minds, if left unchecked, can become our slave owners. It can become something that we ourselves, and by self I mean self with a capital S, and I'm not going to get into the definition of what I consider self, because that would be a long video, but to make it short, self is your essence, and that is very basic and fundamental, and I wish I could go into more detail, but it's just your basic beingness. Oh, language can't really, it doesn't do justice, does it? I wish I had the words or the vocabulary to really convey what I am able to understand intuitively, but I don't. So anyway, yourself, your essence, aka your being, becomes a prisoner of your mind, and your mind starts to dictate yourself, which then prevents you from living an authentic life, right? It prevents you from expressing yourself authentically, because the mind starts to become this weapon that weaponizes you and tells you how to live your life based on the input that it gets from society. Ultimately, our mind is not separate from us. We are the mind, right? The self is the mind, but when we forget that and we separate ourselves from it, it can become a weapon, right? It's so hard to explain all of this stuff, but free yourself from your own mind, because yes, there may be situations in your life, in the physical reality, that are keeping you stuck, right? And I'm not denying that. That is real. In this human reality, in this dimension, feeling stuck by certain situations, feeling like you're binded in some way, not by choice, but by force, is a terrible feeling, right? And I'm not denying that that is real in this dimension, in this physical reality. But your mind, when you become a prisoner of your mind, the mind can further perpetuate your suffering by adding input, unnecessary, unsolicited, and unhelpful input into your situation, right? And that can cause more suffering than what is right in front of you in this physical dimension. So, thankfully, from what I have been able to experience, these roles can get reversed. You can own your own mind. And really, you've owned your mind your whole life. You just forget that you own your mind. And then it kind of plays a trick on you where your mind starts to own you and you forget that you own your mind. And then because you forget that you own your mind, the mind starts owning you. And you believe that you are a prisoner of your mind. Complicated stuff, I'm sorry. But really, when you remember that you are the owner of your mind, it's kind of like this click. Okay, well, my mind has this input. Is it true? Is what it's saying right now true with what's right in front of me? Maybe your mind is saying, well, you're a slave to your job. Megan, you're a slave to your job right now. And, okay, maybe that is true in my physical reality. Maybe I do feel like a slave in my job because I'm there by force or whatever it is, whatever the reason is, because of the money, whatever. Okay, that's a fact. Maybe if I had the choice and if I had a magic wand, I'd change the situation. Okay. But then my mind starts to make the situation worse by saying, well, you're just having a terrible time. You're never going to be happy. And look at this. This task is so trivial. You don't even have to be doing it. Just adding, I can't think of a good example off the top of my head, so I'm sorry for this really crappy example. But it can make the situation worse by giving you a negative outlook, right, on what's going on. Like, an even more terrible outlook on your situation. So, I'm not an expert on freeing myself from my own mind or owning back my own mind. Like I've said a couple of days ago, I said that I felt like I was being controlled by my mind. And every day I change, right? Because every day I'm a new person. My perspective changes, right? Sometimes I'm going uphill, close to the summit. Sometimes I'm going downhill, right? And I'm just tired. And it's that ebb and flow of life. I still feel like my mind owns me at times. I still feel that way right now. It hasn't really changed, but I understand that it's also the way I look at things. But it's hard work. You can't just Sometimes you can just like snap your fingers and your perspective completely changes. And other times you understand something logically, and maybe you've even experienced that in your own life, being able to snap back into it and tune back into who you really are. Other times, it takes time to remember that again, right? So I hope you remember how to free yourself from your own mind. I don't pretend to have the answers, but just wanted to talk about it. I need to, like I said, think about this subject more deeply and think about what freedom really, really means and understand freedom on a deeper level, because I feel like I just have the surface level understanding as of now. But we'll see what happens in several months. Maybe I'll make a video on it. Maybe I won't. We will see. I'm wishing you a beautiful life, a free life, a life full of joy and contentment and satisfaction. Peace and love. Bye.